It is 7 o'clock on Monday, the 9th of November. This is a regular meeting of the Richfield Board of Education. We will begin by welcoming board members. I need to think about where I'm at. In attendance this evening are our student representatives, Shay Walters, Catherine Zolmer, and Jordy Chavez. Thank you very much for attending, you guys. And board members Tim Paulus, Deb Etchen, John Ashmead, Christine Malik, Todd Nolenberger, Superintendent Steve Yanowski, and I'm Peter Tensing. I would make a brief comment about the agenda. We are proposing to move the commendations item to the front of the agenda in respect of the time of our guest. And other than that, that is the only modification to the agenda. We can entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the agenda as modified.
Second.
So motion by Malik, second by Ashmead, that we approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. The agenda is approved. So we will move now to our commendations item, where we are recognizing the outstanding work of Ms. Tina Lavin, who chaired our CQC this year. Superintendent Yanowski.
Yes, so I just want to say a few words about Tina Lavin, who is in our audience, and the work of the CQC. And when we canvass our elections, you are going to get some information about the results of their work and the results of Tina's work. And as you reflect on our election results, of which there were 2 questions on the ballot, of which over 84% of our constituents voted yes to renew our levy, and over 78% of our constituents voted yes for an inflationary increase. Mind you, I believe those are the 2 highest pass rates, at least in the past many, many years in Richfield. And those are some results to be very proud of. And one of the significant reasons for those results has to do with the work of the CQC led by Chairperson Tina Lavin. Tina was out at pretty much every single event in the city of Richfield for months, advertising and sharing information around our election, and also advocating for yes votes. So we also want to thank her husband Peter for accepting the fact that his wife was, yes, for the collateral damage that was done over the period of time for Tina doing this incredible work. And I just can't say enough how thankful we are for Tina and the work of all the CQC members, because you don't get results like this without unbelievable hard work and a lot of positive energy on your part. So personally, and on behalf of the entire city of Richfield and the students, I want to thank you, Tina, for the work of leading our CQC, because we are proud of our results. We are proud of your work. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
Well done.
And speaking certainly on my own behalf, I will let individual board members speak for themselves as well. I just certainly want to recognize, Tina, the outstanding dedication that you've shown and the leadership that you've shown with this effort. I think you truly were the Energizer Bunny, with this particular effort, and the district is very grateful for your work. I would open the floor to any other board members.
I knew it was time to dig my sign out of the garage when Tina emailed me and said, if you don't get it out of there, I'm going to put one in there out of my stock. So as a board member, as a parent, and as a citizen of Richfield, I appreciate all of your efforts. You and your team did outstanding work.
I would second that, and then also thank your children for their understanding during this time too, because I know it wasn't the easiest for them.
They had the kids out helping.
Yeah.
Pete was out with one of his kids picking up signs, and I ran into him. So, yeah, they had them all out there.
So we're getting another generation of Lavins broken in for community service, which these 2 have demonstrated.
One direction or the other.
Very good.
I just want to say thank you. You guys did a great job. Appreciate it so much.
Oh, very good. We'll show Tina our appreciation.
Amen.
Thank you. And, honestly, Lisa Hittemeister and Mary Supple and Dave Clark and Paula, Crystal Rocky and Brad, Branch Kruger, they did a lot of work too, and Craig, gosh, you did a ton of work as well. So it was a team effort all around.
Yeah. So, an outstanding team effort, and thank you for recognizing those individuals as well. We'll make sure that we pass our personal thanks to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we will go ahead and move on to, there is no other action under item 3A, so we can move to item 3B, which is the superintendent update.
So obviously in regard to an update, you already heard the information in regard to our referendum work, which has superseded a significant amount of other actions as we've been out very significantly sharing with the community the information in regard to tax impact, in regard to the work that we are doing with the public funds, hiring teachers, adding reading and math teachers, having gifted and talented teachers, offering opportunities at our middle school and high school that are beyond the requirements of the state of Minnesota, and also making sure that we have college classes of dual enrollment opportunities on our campuses. So we are thankful to our community, and we're also thankful to utilize our funds long-term to continue to focus on the high-quality programming that we offer in Richfield Public Schools. Couple of items that are in your packet in regard to requested things from the school board. So one of the things we had talked about was coming back to our team with a policy review calendar. And so within your packet, you are going to see color-coded by a 5-year cycle beginning in 2016. So with the set of items for us to review and ensure that we are getting through all of our policies on a 5-year cycle. And so the goal of this meeting is not to make this an actionable calendar. The goal of this meeting is to make sure that we are all on board understanding our policy review and making sure that we are ready to take those steps beginning in 2016. So as you look, what we did was we categorized them into 5 groups. There was a large set of policies that had not been looked at pretty much over the past 10 years. And so we wanted to pack those into our first year, 2016, and those are color-coded yellow. And those go back, most of them were 2002 to 2005. And so we wanted to make sure that as quickly as possible we get to all of those policies. Then there was that grouping of the next ones. Those are in pink. Year 3 are coded in green. Year 4, orange, and year 5 of the things that have been done in the last few years are all in blue. One thing to note is this would be the overall structure and schedule for policy review, but when things come up, as you've noticed, we'll go off of the policy calendar and move things ahead. So this is just a way to make sure that we are reality checking our policy reviews and everything is up to speed on at the very least a 5-year cycle. So by the end of this process in 2020, everything will have been reviewed by 2016 or earlier, or later, sorry. Any questions or feedback on the policy review calendar?
Questions or feedback for Mr. Yanowski?
Is the plan to just do them in order as listed here, a couple at a time, or are the logical groupings like I see, say, in the yellow there's 5 of them in the 200s?
Yes, we're going to do logical groupings, and we're going to try to portion them out, so there's 2 to 4 per meeting pretty typically, or 2 to 4 per month.
Okay.
I'm definitely in support of, let me step back a little bit. The reason that I know Member Malik and myself have both felt strongly about this is that by putting a mechanism in place for sort of ongoing evaluation of policies, we can ensure that basically the board is able to do its due diligence without respect necessarily to the membership of the board. I think we in the past we have stumbled a few times, partially because of we're a little bit dependent upon certain an individual remembering that maybe we need to look at this or maybe we don't, and so I think just by kind of making it part of the sort of organized work of the board, I think that's a good way to kind of get institutional memory organized around this topic. So I really appreciate your effort on this. Any other feedback from Mr. Yanowski?
And just one brief reminder before we move on to the next piece. So typically, there is a first reading of a policy, and then it is either voted on the next board meeting or there is a second read depending on the edits or revisions that happen to bring it up to speed and to bring it up to date. And typically by the third meeting, each policy would move through a full review cycle. So anywhere from 2 to 3 times this board and this team will be reviewing policy at these meetings.
And just for perspective, there were quite a number of policies over the years that were no recommended changes and not much of anything bordering on controversy that the board would, given unanimous decision, would vote on it at the time of presentation. So that's not out of bounds, at least, based on what we've done in the past.
Absolutely. Many of the policies are appropriate today, will be appropriate in the future, and some of those change over time. I would actually even note that one of the things we did to quality control our policy cycle is there were actually 2 locations on the internet where things were listed. And so we cross-checked dates to make sure that they all had the same most updated review time. And so I was pleased that some of the dates had been cross-checked back in the 1990s, and they just had not been updated on the index to when the actual review had occurred. So we were very pleased.
To be honest, I seem to recognize a few of these in the yellow. I think we may have had conversations around them possibly without the date getting updated.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But certainly this is a better system, and we'll keep things up to date.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, item 2 has to do with board liaison assignments. And so you will also find in your packet a set of board liaison assignments. And typically this is an action item in January. But I wanted to share out the information now. You will notice that board members or community members who are our current liaison, board members with expiring terms, or community members are highlighted in yellow. And so what I would like prior to taking action in the coming month, be it probably in December, at our first meeting, is I would like our board members to look to determine if they are still feeling comfortable and excited with the board representation opportunities and liaison assignments that have been selected in the past. I'll also be reaching out to our 2 new board members, which we'll be talking about a little bit later, to see where their heart lies in terms of liaison assignments, and making sure that even though we will have a transition of board members coming up, we don't have a transition of Richfield representation in the areas where we want our board to be a liaison and supporting. And so over the next couple of weeks, please make sure to take a look at your current assignments and see if there are other areas you'd like to represent, or if there are areas you'd like to transition to different liaison opportunities.
And Mr. Chair, I did request that this be visited now rather than later. And the reason for that is the West Metro Education Program assignment is the only one on this list I'm aware of that has a legal duty and responsibility for the board member. And they have requested that we identify a replacement as soon as possible. They're really hoping for the end of November, but if it's the first meeting in December, then that's what it is. But they would very much like to get somebody identified prior to year end so that that person can hit the ground running in January. And the director of WINEP would like to meet with them in December if at all possible, just to make sure that they get them up to speed and ready to go. So that was the reason for the request.
Yeah. So duly noted. And if we, at this point, we have our meeting scheduled for the 23rd. We know that Mr. Nolenberger and Ms. Etchen both will be traveling at that time. However, I think we could certainly entertain input from the 4 of us who will be here, and then we could also seek input from Mrs. Cole and Ms. Brackey in terms of their interests, and we can see if we can at least get preliminaries on this. Yeah.
Could we fill in the gaps on here about the dates and times that these different groups meet? Some of them have information and some don't, but
Yeah, that's
that'll have
important.
a big effect on what you can commit to.
We will absolutely follow up and fill in the rest of the chart as quickly as possible.
I think the other, so I guess for Todd and for Deb, certainly If there are particular liaison assignments you have that you do feel like Todd has mentioned, the WEMEP assignment as being one that is particularly a priority. Deb, also if there are some from your perspective that you feel are particularly important, that we make sure we do get a member assigned to sooner rather than later. If you could just let us know, that would be good.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Very good. Anything else, Steve?
Those would be our main items.
Yeah. We can go ahead in that case and move on to the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion by Nolenberger and a second by Ashmead that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, the motion carries. So the consent agenda is approved. And double-sided. I'm glad to see that we're thinking about our paper use. There is no old business for this evening. New business, the first item is the canvassing of the election. We'll move forward to that portion. So the canvassing of the election is sort of an official duty of the school board. What I will do is we do have several resolution documents that we will be canvassing this evening, and then we will be submitting those to the Secretary of State to certify. What I will do is to review the details of the ballots cast and the vote totals. And then we can take the official action that we need to take. So first of all, there is the canvassing of the election of school board members. I'm going to go ahead and run through those vote totals. There were, where is the total here?
It's right there in the resolution.
So 4,023 votes were cast, 4,023 ballots were cast, and so yeah, there's lots of legalese, and I've got documents to cover here.
There you go, you're on the right.
Yeah, all right. And the vote totals for the candidates were as follows. John Ashmead, 1,817 votes. Crystal Brackey, 1,486 votes. Paula Cole, 1,472 votes. Lisa Rudolph, 1,184 votes. Brant Kruger, 793 votes. Aaron Reichen, 619 votes. Rory Coleman Woods, 588 votes. Cindy Larson, 531 votes. Bradley Spear, 437 votes. And there were 51 votes for write-in candidates. Based upon these vote tallies, the canvassing board would be certifying that John Ashmead, Crystal Brackey, and Paula Cole, having received the highest number of votes, are elected to 4-year terms beginning on the first Monday in January 2016. Are there any questions regarding the details of this resolution?
Just so I understand, and the pure joy of it, as I noticed Ms. Cole in the audience, and I know Ms. Brackey was hoping to be here, but I know she will be watching the video. So when this vote occurs, this is when when they officially, and Mr. Ashmead, who was reelected, they will officially, at the end of the resolution, become board members the 1st January in May? Or how does that?
First Monday in January.
First Monday.
Is that when
Yes.
it becomes official?
Yes, they're
It'd
not
be
board members until the
correct.
first Monday in January.
Yes, that is correct. And yes, we can discuss a transition, some transition elements. I think there was an item sort of later towards the end of our agenda, which we can sort of briefly discuss, but that is correct. When board members are sworn in is at the first Monday, that first Monday in January. So with that clarification, any other questions or clarification from board members? If not, we can look for a motion on the resolution.
I'll move the resolution.
second.
So the resolution moved by Mr. Paulus, seconded by Ms. Malik. Mr. Paulus,
Aye.
Ms. Etchen,
Aye.
Mr. Ashmead,
Aye.
Ms. Malik,
Aye.
Mr. Nolenberger.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, the resolution is adopted. Congratulations, Paula and John and Crystal.
Thank you.
And also extending our gratitude to all of the candidates who ran, I think, a very productive campaign. The next resolution, as I'm moving to page 38. Here we are. So at the general election, this is the resolution canvassing returns of the school district special election. General election held November 3rd, 2015. There were a total of 4,006 votes cast in the district regarding school district question 1. This was regarding the renewal of the existing referendum. 3,377 voted in favor, 629 voted against. Those being the vote tallies, that referendum question is said to have carried. Referendum question number 2 regarding an inflationary increase to the school district levy. There were 3,994 votes cast, 3,142 voted in favor, 852 voted against. Similarly, question 2 is declared to have carried. Questions regarding the details of this resolution? If not, we can look for a motion on the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
So a motion by Nolenberger, second by Ashmead. Mr. Paulus,
Aye.
Ms. Etchen,
Aye.
Mr. Ashmead,
Aye.
Ms. Malik,
Aye.
Mr. Nolenberger.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, the resolution is adopted. So thank you very much. That is the extent of our duties as a canvassing board. We will move on then to item 6.2, which is donations.
Great. Just want to acknowledge a donation by Justin's Youth Matters. Justin's Youth Matters donated $400 to Richfield Public Schools through their employee gift match program, matching an additional $400 generous donation made by Stephanie May. So we are very thankful for Stephanie May and also Justin's Youth Matters.
We can entertain a motion to accept the donation.
I move we accept the donation with gratitude.
Second.
So a motion by Etchen, second by Nolenberger. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, the motion carries. Moving on to advanced planning, the legislative update.
So AMSD, Association of Metropolitan School Districts, began to gather input and feedback in regard to their general platform. Dr. Tensing and I were actually in attendance last Friday where they began a conversation around what are their advocacy areas. The main advocacy area that they are proposing that would connect to our previous district-supported requests has to do with special education and the cross-subsidy. They're asking for a specific reduction in cross-subsidy by adding additional funding to special education during the special session. And so right now, Richfield has a cross-subsidy of high 40%, somewhere around 48% of special education funding is taken from across other areas to help support special education to cover up federal mandates and the needs of our special education students. And so we have asked for this on the platform in the past, and as far as AMSD goes, we are going to continue to support that specific piece of their platform.
And I know we've clarified this over and over in the years, but it's probably worth just describing that special education is provided and paid for by law. However, the federal government and state government does not fund it at 100%. So the districts are required to pay for it and provide it. We get funding for about 60% roughly, and then the other 40% comes out of our general fund.
And I think the other piece to clarify is that, and then I don't know if this 40% figure necessarily encompasses this detail, but AMSD was clear that we can only impact a portion of the cross subsidy, being the state portion. There's a portion of that cross subsidy which is federally mandated as well.
Well,
We could
overpay.
Yeah, right, that's true. And of course, we could
Don't ask
we
for
could
it.
lobby the federal government as well.
Yes.
But I think, just for clarity on AMSD's platform at least, yeah.
That's fair.
Yep.
So then AMSD plans to finalize their platform in the next month. They have meetings the first Friday, I believe, of each month. And so they are going to go back to their platform Friday in December to try to finalize their platform for lobbying and supporting the efforts of districts.
Any questions regarding the AMSD legislative platform or other particular issues that individual board members would like Steve or I to be aware of as the representatives? We're going to advocate as hard as we can for the special ed cross subsidy. Having considered this, I think the other piece to think about, did we meet with our legislators in January most recently? I mean, it would be good to meet with our legislators, obviously, before the session.
It's typically when we've met with them in the past.
Yeah.
Prior to the session, so you're right, if that's gonna happen.
We better start scheduling.
Okay.
So let's, I'm not sure what the first date of session is, or if our second meeting in January would be adequate.
I actually believe they're scheduled to start in March for a relatively abbreviated special session. So we could actually do January second meeting or one of our meetings in February.
Okay. So, very good. I think in the interim then, for board members to be considering items for discussion that we want to bring up with our legislators would be worthwhile. Anything further on the legislative update?
That would be it for now.
Very good. We'll move on to part B, which is information and questions from the board. We can open the floor.
So I'm the Wood Lake liaison for the board, and they are having a fundraiser called the Turkey Trailblazer on November 21st. It's the weekend before Thanksgiving, and it's just a 5K or 1K fun run walk kind of a thing. So something fun in Wood Lake. Great if you want to bring kids. They're gonna have like turkey tracks to follow to the end of the course. Could be fun if anyone's interested.
Is that a fundraiser or not?
It is a fundraiser,
Okay.
yes.
So there's a fee then?
Mhm.
Any other information or questions to bring forward?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What is the process in which, like a program, let's say like the school gym to get new equipment, what is the process to get like funding?
Okay, so each building is allocated sets of funds, some for classrooms and classroom materials and some for capital improvements, which have to do with building opportunities. So it would depend on which specific pieces we're talking about. Our team and our building and operations team is actually beginning work on a long-term capital improvement plan to look at buildings and grounds and things that we need to do to make sure that we are in line with improvements. If we're talking a small piece in regards to the gym, then the physical education teachers would work with the principal, discuss priorities around the building. They would create a proposal and a conversation with our building and grounds team, and then determine if it was something to move forward to the superintendent and the school board.
Thank you.
And I'd be happy to talk to you after the meeting if there's something specific we should be aware of, or some specific need having to do with our gym or physical education in the high school, so that at least it can be on our radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Shea.
Yeah, I think that is one thing, obviously that capital maintenance and capital improvements plan is something that should be visiting on an annual basis, and I believe that we last visited that this past spring. So that'll most likely, Jordy, be coming up
Yes,
this
we
spring.
actually just recently hired Head of Building and Grounds Dan Kretzinger, and Craig Holge and he are beginning to do a systemic examination of our buildings and grounds for things like deferred maintenance or improvements or things like that, to come up with an overall picture of the things that we need and an overall beginning conversations of areas where improvements are possibly needed. You know, one of the wonderful things is we do go through a referendum campaign and maintain our financing for operations. One of the good news pieces in a district such as Richfield, and we can be very proud of, is there actually is no current capital maintenance levy on the taxpayers of the city of Richfield. And so I think it was a couple of years ago that the final capital levy went off the books, and so currently we don't have additional funding specifically noted for capital improvements and long-term maintenance. One of the long-term conversations in regard to AMSD and their previous platforms has included legislative discussion about maintenance and paying for maintenance in buildings, particularly buildings that are in districts that have been more established. So we obviously have buildings that are highly effective buildings, very well made, that are also 50 years old. And so they are very strong, but also obviously in need of constant attention and improvements to make sure that we are having the best possible properties.
I very much appreciate that euphemism for old, more established. She's more established.
Very good. We can move on to our conversation about future meeting dates. The next meeting in November will be Monday, the 23rd. That'll be held here in the district boardroom at 7 o'clock. And then our first meeting in December will be Monday, the 7th, held here in the district boardroom at 7. That meeting will be our truth and taxation meeting, where we certify our levy. Are there suggested agenda items that we would like the administration to consider prior to these meetings?
I did email Steve and Craig this afternoon, a little over a year ago when we implemented QComp. I suggested that I would come back to them in about a year and ask the question, what did the Richfield taxpayers get for their QComp dollars? And perhaps December 7th, the Truth and Taxation meeting would be an appropriate time for a response to that question. So.
We'd be happy to bring in our team to have a conversation about QComp and things that we've done to move forward evaluation in support of instructional improvements. Sounds like a great opportunity.
And I thought it was a good idea, given that part of the QComp is that we got money from the state, but the other part is that we as a board assessed additional taxes on the citizens of Richfield. And so I do think it's important that we acknowledge that there are additional taxes for that and demonstrate what we've done since.
Yep. So I think a fine way to maintain accountability for and stewardship over the taxpayer dollars. One item that, curriculum-wise, that I would be interested in taking a look at is, I think it's been some time since we've examined our GT program, and would like to be able to take a look at maybe getting an update on where we're at with our GT program, and looking at the process that we use for identifying students and making sure that we're as rigorous as we can be in regard to offering sort of those additional opportunities for our students.
As we did just pass the referendum with one of those as our focal point, that is very timely, and we'll be ready with that on November 23rd. And much like Mr. Nolenberger, who shared that information and request prior, I appreciate you and I having that same conversation. And so November 23rd, we will have our gifted and talented update for the board.
I do have one other one that I haven't given you a heads up on. Not a big one. The first cohort of RDLS kids are 8th graders this year. And I guess, and it doesn't even have to be in the next 3 meetings, but at some point I think the board should hear what the plans are from the high school for bringing those kids into the high school. Is there thought around a continued opportunity for there being classes in Spanish for those kids? Is there an opportunity perhaps for some college level Spanish for those kids? Those kinds of things I think would be interesting. We talked a little bit a couple meetings ago about STEM and how what the thought process is about implementing STEM education past the elementary level. And I know they've done a nice job at the middle school with bringing the RDLS kids along and continuing to have them operating and learning in Spanish. So I think it would be interesting for the board to hear what the thoughts are at the high school level as well.
So Dr. Will Height in ELL has actually been planning with LaTanya Daniels, the principal. They've already created some drafts to begin work with teachers in regard to curriculum to move things forward up through the high school, and also staffing plans have initially been put in place. But I will get the ELL team on the docket for our December 21st meeting, because I would like to do that while you're still on the board, as you have asked, Mr. Hillenberg.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I have one item, just to follow up on the strategic plan. When it went final, and there was a lot of effort going into it, I guess now I'm just curious what the next steps are, and if we have any scheduled action items or where we are in that process.
So that is on the docket for our next meeting in November, and similarly, one of the items that will be brought forward for conversation for the board, Ms. LaTanya Daniels will be presenting to the board in 2 weeks at our meeting to talk about moving the high school to a 7-period day, discussing potential impacts, some of the reasons why we would go that direction, the financial implications, and I don't believe it'll be an action item on the 23rd, but it'll be up for conversation at that time. And so we'll also couple that with an overall presentation in regard to the strategic plan.
So actually, Tim, that reminds me, one thing I did want to point out is you will notice a slight change to the format of our agenda document, in that we now have the mission statement printed right there at the head of the agenda to keep all of us focused. One thing that I think the board can certainly do in terms of taking a leadership role with the strategic plan is to make that an item of continuous focus, and to bring that as, bring our own discipline to keeping ourselves focused on the elements of the strategic plan, and keeping those values front and center as we do our work, just as we would like our staff to do the same. So I think as the board evolves, we'll be continuing to make that a priority. Any other agenda items we should be considering?
So last item I'll just bring up myself, which will be, you'll be receiving an update on progress towards goals for myself, one of my quarterly reports, and I will be doing that at our next board meeting, just to update you on progress and how things are going from that superintendent goals perspective of what we talked about in August.
Very good.
So we do have a closed session scheduled pursuant to discussion regarding negotiations. I would look for a motion to enter into closed session.
I move we vote to go into closed session.
Second?
So a motion by Ashmead, second by Malik, that we enter into closed session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye.